Hi, it's Taylor Hickson. The cast of Motherland Fort Salem and I are super excited to answer all your questions. We see them all and we appreciate you guys taking the time to send them in, and we're going to answer a few of them for you guys. So answer time starts now. Also, excuse me, I'm painting my fireplace at the same time.
When I found out I got the part of Salem, I was sitting at a Mexican restaurant just around the corner from the Freeform headquarters. And it was me, Dimitri McKinney, and we had just done our screen test. And we were, like, it was a nerve-wracking experience. It was the first screen test in that capacity. And we went for lunch to kind of blow the steam off. I was there with Swedish payphone, kind of, and I had run out of money, so I just turned it off so that I don't know, I wouldn't be contacted and get a very expensive bill. Therefore, my manager couldn't reach me to tell me that I've gotten the part. So, like, 1 hour into the lunch, when I turned the phone on, there were so many missed calls from her, and she said, "Call me back as soon as possible, I have something to tell you." But I didn't have any money on my phone, so I borrowed Dimitri's phone. And I called her up, and she said, "You got the part." And it was a great moment. Yeah, I didn't believe it. I just cried and laughed. Dimitri found out too during that lunch, so it was just, yeah, it was so much fun. And then, so Dimitri was the first person I told. Then I had to go straight back to the headquarters to do a chemistry read with Taylor.
Great question. I mean, I think the fact that I can actually watch it as an audience member is something I haven't really experienced before. I often personally experience like a performance anxiety around watching stuff that I've been in. I feel like, you know, the work is done, and I think, you know, if I were to watch it, I would just tear it apart, and I'd be looking for that moment that I didn't land, or you know, I would be looking to kind of critically take apart my performance and not be able to experience the show. Because often I think that's what actors do experience, is this kind of inability to watch their work objectively. Because they're kind of just seeing maybe where they messed up. And it's been such an incredible thing to watch every episode come out and go, I'm not thinking about the day, I'm not remembering, I'm not even anticipating, even though I know where the story is going, what happened in that particular episode. All the details, I don't see the seams. I just experience it as if almost like I'd never been part of it. And that's, I mean, I'm so proud of that, because I guess that's, for me, maybe the ultimate proof that we did a really good job. And I'm so proud of the work that we have made. That I'm so proud to have been just a small part of this incredible tapestry. And to watch how it's resonated with you guys. I don't know if there's a greater feeling.
How am I? What a great question. And thank you for asking, by the way. I think I'm good, considering the current situation that we're in. Look, I always tell myself, when you think you're suffering, know that other people are suffering a lot more than you are. I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm at home. I am with my parents, which has been fantastic, because normally I don't get to spend time with my parents that much. And I've been here now for 2 months. I live in in London, but I have a pending move back to the States, and so I don't always get to spend more than 2 or 3 days in Belgium. So having been home for this long has both been rewarding, but I'm also going to be very honest in saying that sometimes it has really just gotten to me. Also, I'm in the countryside and I'm a city girl. So I really miss having this, you know, bustling city around me and being able to just go out and have everything close by. On the other hand, being here in the countryside, I get to really enjoy nature and be in nature. And for me, that's always been a very therapeutic way of calming my senses. So, you know, I try to meditate a lot. I go for long walks. Being close with the family, of course, gives me that special quality time with them, which has been amazing. And thanks to FaceTime, we get to speak to everyone around the world. But, you know, to be honest, I have days where I wake up and not having a sense of direction or knowing what's going to happen in the foreseeable future is quite scary. And sometimes I get overwhelmed with anxiety. So I have good and bad days, but I try to stay optimistic. And whenever I feel that I'm struggling most, and I you know, sometimes you can meditate and go for a walk, but then other days you just don't want to get out of bed and you don't feel like doing anything. And whenever I find myself in a situation like that, I will try to not make it about me, but about the people around me and the people that I know. So I tend to reach out to people and check in with them and ask them how they are, instead of making it about me. That always helps me to just like take the equation away from myself and make it about other people. So that's a good little trick to pull yourself out of a bad day, I think. Just make it about other people. I usually feel incredibly replenished after that.
Oh yeah, okay, so there's a bunch. We all kind of had our own designated sound. So I think mine was O, and then Tally had ah, and Abigail had ooh. Either me or Abigail had O or ooh, I can't remember, but we did so many sessions with our awesome vocal coach, Frederick, and he taught us properly how to use our diaphragm and the whole lot, and we would do vocal warm-ups every time, and yeah, just to get a more, how would you say that, I guess, engaging sound and look. It's better if you're actually using your voice, and it just comes across more authentic. So yes, we did use our voices.
Did you know what the seeds would sound like while filming, or was it all added after?
I mean, we kind of had a predetermined guess, but there was no way to actually tell because things always change in post, and once you get to editing, maybe you find some other sounds that sound better or suit better, but they did take our actual voices and manipulate the sounds to make it what it was. For the most part, they kept our own voices.
The hardest scene to shoot, I think for me, was me personally, the scene with the girls having to blow up the truck. First off, physically, it was a hot day. We're in these uniforms, and, you know, kudos to the crew for doing what they could to keep us all cool and temperatures, you know, regulated and everything. But it was just a really, really hot day in Vancouver. Everybody was a little bit uncomfortable just because of the heat, but everybody kept their cool, which was great. Now, when you're thinking about all of the demands that are being put on everybody, this is an already strenuous situation that Anacostia and everybody is experiencing. You know, keeping that framework in mind, keeping the pros and cons of what I'm having to do that started off as a definite wrong in my mind, having to take weight off of Tally, having to deal with the consequences of what just happened with Rael, regarding the Scylla of it all, and then the civilians. You know, when we get into these positions, we really try to put ourselves in those combat boots. And I am no different with that with Anacostia. So just kind of dealing with the ebb and flow of those emotions in that day was a lot. My most gratifying scene, again, it hasn't happened yet. I think that what happens in episode 10 is a culmination into a light switch that kind of happens with everybody. We're headed that direction already with some of the changes that have been happening with 7 for each of the characters' evolutions. But once we get to 10, that moment between myself and one other character is just so paramount for me. Like, I think it just really, really defines us in a different way than anybody's ever seen us. So that's the most gratifying part for me.
Oh, I love this question. What books am I reading and have read? I've had so much time now to read all the books that I've been longing to read. There's quite a long list, so just to rattle off a few. Educated by Tara Westover, amazing. Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. It's all about creative living beyond fear. Incredible. I would give it to all of my friends if I could. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, and that's also just for any creative, really about the process of creating anything. And she just writes with such honesty. I've read some South African authors recently, of which include Rebecca Davis, Self-Helpless, amazing, and so funny, so funny. Whatever by Saskia Bailey. It's a 19-year-old writing her memoir, and I don't think I've ever read anything more honest. It blew my mind. And recently just finished, like literally just finished, a book called Woman, Food, and God. And that's been something that I'm actually looking forward to reread, because it's just one of those books that are just talking about how we all have this emotional, physical, and spiritual relationship with food. But it goes so much past that, and it's well worth the read. Packs a punch.
I don't know, a superpower I've always wanted to do is read minds. I feel like that would really come in handy in our world. You know, Tally can see things and she can feel, but reading the minds to know, General Alder, what really is going through your head right now? Anacostia, what's up? Just, you know, stuff like that. I don't know, I think that would solve so many issues. Maybe like why the spree is doing what they're actually doing. Like, what is their thought process behind it all? I know, like, we hear it on the show, obviously, you know, for total liberation and things like that. But, you know, just knowing people's thought processes. So, yeah, reading minds.
Oh man, that was really hard for both of us. I'd say it was the hardest part would be when I left the room, which sounds super strange, but when I could hear Scylla or Amalia screaming for me and calling for me, and you know, hearing the conversation after I'd left with Anacostia or Demetria, it was super heartbreaking. We were having a really hard time with it. There was many times where they cut during the shooting of these scenes and we both couldn't stop crying. So afterwards they had us hug it out and hold each other, and we took a couple smiling photos and just tried to shake it off, and we just talked for a while afterwards and spent some time together and drank tea and had some snacks and just, you know, talked and hugged it out, and yeah.
How'd you guys prepare?
I think we both prepared individually just because of what the scene was. We didn't want it to seem like we had been together and sort of had this already predetermined, you know, shot. So we both sort of stayed away from each other and prepared separately, so that when we were put in a room for the first time, aside from blocking, you know, it did come across authentic, and it's like we were surprised and we were getting a legitimate reaction from both of us.
Can I describe the season finale in 3 words? Absolutely not. I mean, it's grand. It's awesome. And it's everything. It's, you know, I remember shooting the finale. I don't think I've ever worked so hard as an actor and as a team as well. I mean, the girls, the whole team, as we got to the last episode, we had been playing, we were really like feeling our characters, we were living them, and we've come together as a team and a unit that was so strong, which was truly incredible. We had to do so much work in such a little time. I mean, the finale is spectacular. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. We worked so hard. We worked incredible long days. I remember I was very ill at that time, but you know, the show must go on. You can't just call in and say, oh, hey guys, I'm not going to be able to make it today because I'm not feeling well. It's, you know, it just doesn't happen. I had a doctor come to set and injected me with a B12 shot, and that was that, and you just had to go on. But you know, the passion that we had for the project, that we have for the project, was just making us move mountains, and that's what we've did. We had a very limited time, but the entire crew, I mean, we're an army of people, and to have done what we did, I mean, hands down, I thank everybody who was involved in the production, because it was very challenging, but we did it. And you know, we were shooting on this mountain range in Canada, and there was a full moon one of the nights. I mean, you know, you stand there and you're so lucky. It was also very emotional because you're coming to the end of the show. You've been working for 6 months all together, and you know it's coming to an end, and you have no idea yet how it's going to be perceived. But I remember during, you know, making the finale and then shooting the finale, it was just so overwhelming, and it didn't matter whether I was sick or not. We just kept going, and we gave it our all. We gave it our everything. So the finale, it's badass, and it's coming at you soon, and I hope you enjoy it, because we certainly did making it.
Okay, how much fun did you have? Exclamate, how much fun did we have? How much fun did we have? As a unit, as a cast, was it incredible? Yes, it was incredible. We can't swear, so that was a silent cuss. Life-changing.
If Motherland would be our reality, where would I see myself? Look, when I read the script and I read Alder, I said no to other offers and productions that had come to me, which is not a given, and that was the very first time in my career, and it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. But for me, you know, having shot the pilot and for Motherland and portraying Alder, for me it was pretty adamant that that's who I've got to be. So I think if Motherland would be our reality, I'd be General Alder. I mean, I am General Alder, right?
Most embarrassing moment on set would probably be when Kai and I were up against the tree in episode 4, getting it on in Beltane. I'd never done anything like that before. Neither Kai and I had done a love scene on screen, so the nerves were another thing. And while we were beautifully cocooned in a closed set, and we had, you know, the support of cast and crew, and that was amazing, I think the nerves and the cold it was like 3 a.m. and when the robes come off, I don't think anything can really prepare you for the moment. It's such a surreal thing to be clutching basically a stranger you met like 2 weeks ago, and you've got, you know, tape strapped to your body, and you're being posed, and, you know, I think the moment kind of just escalated for me when Kai very sweetly leaned over between takes, and he just said, "Hey Jess, you know, it's going really well, but can I just ask you on this next take if you just don't mind not biting me?" And I just was like, oh my gosh, I've been biting my co-star. This is just, I don't know what it was. It probably was nerves and cold, and I just locked jaw. And I had been slowly nibbling my co-star, and I just felt just mortified. Yeah. So sorry, Guy.
Thank you so much for congratulating me on the Spoiler TV Performer of the Month, April. It's a big honor, and I feel very happy to get the recognition and all the support that Switch's Motherland Fort Salem fans have shown. And the rest of the question was on how I felt about the response to episode 7 when it aired. And it was, let me put it like this, I knew it was good writing, and I just hoped that we would do it justice, and I know everyone in the crew was aiming for that. It's just something, it was a very special day of shooting. We did them all in one day, and it was just something on how in between takes the set would be completely quiet, in respect so that we wouldn't be thrown out of our emotions, and the jokes were discreet and turned to a minimum unless we were open to joke, and it was just, we were treated like acting royalty, and I think that enhanced our performance as well in one way. And just remembering how for episode 7, the director Shannon Coley, because I was stuck in this chair in the cell, so in between takes I would never get up or anything because that would waste time, and I wanted to stay in it. So I was basically sitting there most part of the day because I didn't want to get out of it. So she would have to, she kind of tiptoed to me to give me the notes, and trying to hide her crying because she didn't want her emotions to interrupt with our work and our process, and it was just an amazing experience. So therefore, based on that, I'm just so happy that it resonated with you at home and that it went through you, and thankful that you were open for it, that you took our performance with and the writing and just these scenes to your heart with open arms.
I'm a big believer in every role that you play, you take something away from that character. I feel like, you know, when you're acting, you're like stepping into the shoes of that person that you're playing, that role, that character. But with Abigail, I feel like I related a lot to her. We're very, very similar, kind of like hand in hand through and through, except I'm not as big of a queen bee as she is at the beginning. But she definitely puts a lot of pressure on herself, and I do that as well. And she's a perfectionist. So I feel like as Abigail was learning things about herself and allowing herself to open up and be vulnerable and things like that throughout the season, while we were filming those things and I was reading those things in the scripts, as I was portraying them and acting them out on set, I, as Ashley, was learning things about myself, because we were so similar. I could see myself in her, and vice versa. So I'm very, very thankful for this character because I learned a lot about myself as Abigail did. So that was really cool.
When it comes to Alder's hobbies or activities that she would have. I kind of, you know, thought that Alder, you know, she made a comment where she thinks that the one thing that the humans got right were making whiskey. She loves whiskey. And it wouldn't surprise me if Alder would have a little basement on the base, a hidden little private basement where she has her own little brewery and maybe has been making whiskey for hundreds and hundreds of years and distilling them and tasting them, and, you know, just a little challenge for herself to even, you know, create a whiskey that is even better than the humans would make, because I think she's very proud of the distinction that she's not human but also a witch. So that, making her own whiskey. And then another activity, I think she's a great lover of music, and it would be classical music, because I think if we go back, classical music has been around since, I mean, forever. I would actually have to look it up when the first classical piece, it's a good thing to look up, by the way, was written or composed. But I do believe that she would be listening to a lot of classical music, maybe, you know, while taking a bath after a long day at the office, or after a day when a city drop has gone wrong or feels that everyone is against her. That would probably soothe her, listening to classical music. So that would definitely be one of her activities. And then playing board games with her biddies. Board games, board games, board games. I'm sure she's a fanatic into playing board games. So those are, I think, would be the hobbies and activities that Alder would like.
What am I going to school for? So I recently just graduated. I graduated from the Baylor University, Sigma Bears, and I am a film and digital media major. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in film and digital media. So it's basically just like, you know, film and television production. Being in front of the camera, acting, I also developed a love for being behind the camera and writing and directing. And, you know, I've shot a couple of short films, I've written them, I've edited them. Yeah, I don't know, I just love that. I love that kind of stuff. So I guess ultimately my goal would be writing and directing my own movies and producing them. And of course, maybe, you know, casting myself in them. But, yeah, that's my major. So I did it. It was a struggle, you know, going, you know, from filming to back into, you know, college life and doing classwork and going to class and stuff like that. Our last week of filming overlapped with my first week of school for my last semester of senior year. But yeah, I did it. I made it. And to all of you who were in the class of 2020 who, you know, struggled and didn't think you would make it, I didn't think I would make it here, and I did. So all of you who have big dreams, big aspirations, big goals, and also want to pursue an education, I think you should, because you can do anything you set your mind to. So, mwah. I love this question because I love music, and I actually have a playlist named Abigail Bellwether. Yes. It's funny because, you know, it's a whole bunch of genres compact in this playlist because, you know, you meet Abigail in the first episode and she's like this queen bee, this alpha. She hasn't really learned, like, there's no I in team. And then, you know, you travel out throughout the season and you get to see the vulnerable sides of her and the depth of the character, and you get to peel back like the layers of, you know, that onion. So, yeah, I'm just gonna read you some of the songs on the playlist. So it starts from episode 1 and then ventures throughout the episode. So yeah, first one, Man Eater by Nelly Furtado. You guys get what I'm saying. Episode 4, you know. Sorry Not Sorry by Demi Lovato. Diva by Beyonce, Like a Girl by Lizzo, Bossy it's by Kiki Palmer, but it's from a show called Star that was on Fox. Love that. You Should See Me in a Crown, Billie Eilish, duh. That's not the song that goes with duh, but okay, you got it. Yeah, you know, just those are kind of the bad B songs, I'd say. A good one that shows like the vulnerable side of her. I kind of got it from you guys, actually. Someone made a fan edit and a mashup of Abigail, you know, showing that side of her, and it's Human. Yes, by Christina Perry. And I think that describes Abigail beautifully and perfectly, because she is human, even though, you know, she's putting off this, you know, like big bad bee energy, like don't get in my way, but you know, she has a lot of pressure on her and she puts a lot of pressure on herself. So yeah, those are some of the songs I have for AB. If you guys want me to share the playlist, I will. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I'd say almost all of the finale, or episode 10, I couldn't stop screaming WTF while reading the script. It's just every single character has an insane twist that you won't see coming, and yeah, it'll blow your mind, and it really, really sets a path leading towards a hopeful season 2 if we go there, and yeah, it sets it up really nicely to have lots and lots going on.
Next question. Hello from France. Hello from France. I knew you were inspired by the book The Witches by Erica Young. Can you tell us more? How did the book help you for the series? Thank you in advance for your answer. Stay safe and take care of yourself. Lots of love, Flavie. Mwah. You mean this book? So it's actually just called Witches by Erica Young, and it is a beautiful compilation of poetry and illustration and a historical, mystical exploration in the origin of the witch in history and as a symbol. And I think it can be perfectly summed up in this one line, which says that the witch is a mythical embodiment of the male fear of woman and the female distrust of self. And I think that's just been a conversation that we've had as a humanity throughout history, you know, this conversation of fear and desire and waking into our own power. And this book came as a gift from my mum. She bought it at a secondhand bookshop, and on my 25th birthday, I was having, I don't know, I was just having a moment. I was really feeling myself waking into as a woman, and just, yeah, feeling the grief of moving out of your childhood and into a new phase of your life. And that's kind of where I was right about the time that I was taping for Motherland. And I remember having a very weird conversation with Elliot when we first met. And he asked me what books I had been reading that year and what I thought about witches and what I knew about witchcraft and what I thought about his world. And I said, you know, it's funny because I've just been reading this book. And he could not believe it, because it turned out that his mom bought him the same book when he was a little boy, and it had been one of the main influences for what drove him to write Motherland. So talk about real magic. Crazy. So yeah, needless to say, this was something that I had with me in my trailer as just a touchstone and a source for inspiration as we were shooting. Thank you for your question. Thank you so much. That's such a great compliment. And I'll say, from somebody who isn't naturally very good at accent work, I don't have a musicality. I don't have a musical ear for it. Some people can really pick it up like that just from hearing it. I was not such a person, have not been. And, you know, all my training has really come from a lot of spending some time just watching the mouth and working the mechanism. And two references that I will always refer to with anyone asking is the Amy Walker YouTube tutorials that she does with the standard American accent, part 1 to 5. Brilliant. And it's free, I mean, and she's wonderful. And then an accent app that I've come across called the Accent Kit. Brilliant. Because you really want to spend time listening to natural, free speech, so that you can hear where they're putting the inflection on, if your vowels sound different, if your consonants sound different. And there's always a musicality to a accent that you will start picking up, even if you don't have an ear for accents like myself. You will over time start to hear it. So just give it time and keep doing the work, keep grinding. And when you do have the money, I always try and work with an accent coach.
The biggest jokes there, we're all kind of jokesters, yo. It's a give and take between everybody. Like the trio, Rael, Tally, and Abigail definitely had a lot of moments together, so I'm sure they have like a lot of inside jokes that they had to do while they were filming and all of that stuff. But I'd have to say that the biggest jokester for me, and it's unintentional, is Lynn. I cannot I cannot stress how different she is from General Alder. She's one of the brightest people I've met, very smart, very cultured, strikingly gorgeous, but she'll just be like, so what's up? You know, I mean, she's just, her body language gives very much Jim Carrey at times, because she's just that confident in who she is and just really that welcoming for everybody to be comfortable. So while she's not necessarily a jokester on purpose, the person that made me laugh most of the time was Lynn Renee. Love you, Lynn.
Definitely something with wings or a tail. I would like to either breathe underwater, I think, or fly. So maybe a fairy or a mermaid, which is probably the same as when I was 5 years old.
Okay. Thoughts on Tally and Abigail as a duo? Well, I love Tally. I love Abigail. I love their friendship and bond they've created. But it just wouldn't be the same without Rael. That's why we've created a trio. That's why we have our unit, people! No, I'm kidding. But no, for real, no, the bond between the three girls and all the dynamics that they come from, no, that's what makes us. That's what makes Motherland. So duos, single-os, that sounded crazy, but none of that. The trio is where it's at. It's where it's meant to be. I wouldn't be anywhere without my unit. So Abigail, Tally, and Rael, bellwether unit forever. Mwah!
Did I learn anything new about myself while filming? Yes, many things. I think the biggest thing was that I'm stronger than I think I am. even on a physical level, I'm just going to say on a physical level, I would say that I was never really an athletic person. I was a participator at school. I would participate in the galas and in, athletics day, but I was not an athlete. And so even the military aspect of it, that physical demand of the show really scared me. And I just remember my mom just saying, just don't resist anything, just go into it. And, when we hit those training days, I just experienced a new belief in my own strength physically, and it was so empowering. It was so empowering. And it's really sparked a different relationship with my body and how I'm taking care of it and how I'm living in it. And then just on an emotional aspect, for me, I have never experienced anything like the stamina that is demanded of you for TV shooting, which is so different from feature films. You're shooting sometimes 4 to 6 scenes a day. You're sometimes getting the script, the morning of. The pace was something I'd never experienced before. So I really found myself having to adapt, kind of thrive or die situation in terms of my preparation as an actor, and I guess how precious I was of the moment, like of getting it right. There was immense trust that you had to ultimately do what you could, and then trust that the team was going to have your back, and that you were going to find your performance in your co-star's eyes. And often that was the most amazing thing. The magic on set was that trust. We were just kind of falling back into each other's arms, knowing that we were all on this crazy ride. So, yeah, I would say strength and learning to adapt and learning to really, really trust. Yeah, good lessons.
I think Anacostia protects Raelle so much because she sees what she could have been in Raelle. Anacostia being a fosterling and coming from a kind of broken background, there was opportunity for her not to care. And now being thrust into war situations, combat training, losing people on a pretty regular basis, seeing things through the lens that is General Alder, I think she realizes that at any moment she could have been that. On top of that, Anacostia seems to have tapped into this sense of what's going on around her. Like in last episode, when Alder was puppeting President Wade, Anacostia was the one that tuned into that. She was the one that sensed it, felt it, and eventually got hurt by seeing what she saw. So I think that kind of happened with Raelle from the very beginning. Oh, you think you Miss Batty? You could be, but we're going to make you batty in a good way. You know what I mean? So I think that's why she protects Raelle. She sees the potential, she sees the hurt, and she wants to manifest that into something not only great for the military, but great for Raelle just as a person.
That's a very good question. I think because liberation, obviously, we're meaning the spree here, and I would not want to kill anyone in the Motherland world, but I would want to fight for freedom. And in the Motherland world, they do say that military is, slavery by nature. But I also think that the military can do some good. So I don't know, maybe instead of it being you have to conscribe for conscription day, maybe it's like you have a choice to be like a free witch or not.
Mine would probably be pistachio, mine personally.
What do you think your character's favorite flavor would be?
Something Something evil for sure. The first thing that I thought when reading that question was, it's a Canadian flavor. It's called Tiger Tail, and it's like an orange sherbet or something combined with black licorice. And I think black licorice is absolutely foul. And I eat most foods, like pretty much everything. I'm a garburator. I'm disgusting. I'll eat my entire meal and then finish off everyone else's. But I will not touch black licorice. No, ma'am.
When I read the initial script of Motherland and I auditioned for General Alder, what drove me to read for it was the world that was created by Elliot Lawrence. It was so unique. It was something that I had never really read before. And I love to be challenged as an actor. So when I read the part of Alder, she scared me, if anything. And not just by the character or the personality that she has, but more of the level of difficulty to portray her. First of all, I'm Belgian, and General Alder is American, has led and basically made America into what it is. And so, you know, to master an American accent is not easy, but I'm very proud that I'm finally at a place where I can do that. So that, and, you know, to portray and play a female general is not any given thing. I myself am completely different than General Alder, if not the opposite. For me, it was about the posture, the language, the way that I had to portray this knowledge that she has been carrying for over 300 years. When something scares me, that's usually the sign when I know that I want to put my claws into it and really, you know, tackle the level of difficulty in that way. So when I read for it, I never really thought that I would hear back or be cast for this, because it was, you know, such a far reach and so far-fetched to who I am. So when I heard that I was cast for the general, to be very honest, I was really, really scared, because I knew that I was going to face a level of difficulty that would come my way, which I have never experienced before. But again, I think it's one of the most incredible roles that I've taken on, and I've actually feel privileged that I got to play a woman in such power, especially during the times that we're in now, and to portray a world that is new and unique and that people had never seen before.
Neither. I'm team love.
Okay, let's see. How intense is episode 10? So how intense is the season finale? The cliffhanger, what we're leaving you guys with. I like to say the last two scenes, you guys are going to be shook. You're going to be mind blown. You know, I've talked about the scene, my favorite scene of all throughout every episode throughout the season is in episode 10, and that is with Taylor. So you're gonna get to see that scene, and that's a little, I don't know, it's a little cliffhanger into, you know, season 2, and the final scene is gonna just blow your minds. You're not gonna see it coming at all. So yeah, that's episode 10 in a nutshell. But you know, everything else that happens, it's a lot of fighting, it's a lot of action, you know, coming back to like episode 1, where we had all that fighting and training, and you're gonna see that put to good use. A lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of things you're not expecting. So buckle up, strap in, get ready, get excited.